Good evening. I'm Storm Teammate Meteorologist Erika Martin with an update on your weather on WXEdge.com. You all know the executive producer of SportsEdge.com, Kels Dayton. He's back today. Unfortunately, not giving us some good news, and that's because we do have some changes in the high school football championships coming up this weekend, right?
Right. A lot of the games have been changed because of the weather, so that's why we're here.
All right, so let's go ahead and quickly talk about the hour-by-hour forecast. Kels is going to go over the games coming up and how they could all be affected. Of course, how the players may play differently because of this snow. Now, let's keep in mind that the bulk of the system moves in Saturday afternoon and Saturday evening, but we're still going to see some snow moving in overnight Friday into Saturday.
And that could affect the Ansonia versus Woodland championship game, Class S championship that they're going to play on Friday night.
All right, so let's get started. WXEdge.com. I don't know if Kels has good news right now, but let's go ahead. Let's get started. WXEdge.com for all of your weather updates and SportsEdge.com for your sports updates. So here we go, Kels. Let's start off with our hour-by-hour forecast, and we're going to move this out 48 hours, but we're going to have a couple of pause points here starting at 2 a.m. Now, I am confident that this system is going to kind of start to sneak in a little bit earlier, overnight Friday into Saturday. Though some models are pushing this system off starting later on Saturday, I have just noticed that these systems seem to be coming in a little bit sooner. With that said, I think we'll see some light flurries move across northern Connecticut, and then we start to see the most of that snow approaching Saturday afternoon into the evening hours. So let's talk about that game that's going on Friday night.
That game, the Class S championship between Ansonia and Woodland, that could be a big advantage if there is snow, if there's any snow at all, because Woodland does not like to run the ball. They like to pass the ball. Their quarterback actually leads the state all-time in passing touchdowns. And Ansonia, of course, one of the best running teams in the state, got the best running back probably in the state, Markel Newsom. That's going to be really tough to stop. And if Woodland can't score points, that's bad for them. Big time advantage for Ansonia if it snows.
Okay, so what time is that game starting?
That game will start at 7:05 at a root field in New Britain at Central Connecticut State. So that game, obviously, if we get the snow, could be really a big advantage for the Chargers.
Okay, so the good news is it doesn't look like that snow is going to get here terribly early on Friday. It looks more like we'll see some flurries late Friday afternoon, and then the system starting to approach through the overnight hours, that low working up the eastern seaboard for the afternoon, evening hours. So let's keep this moving along here. And really, this is 10 o'clock on Saturday. That's not going to affect the game per se, but it may affect some of the people traveling. So let's talk about those game time changes.
Game time changes. A lot of the games have been moved up from night games to morning games, basically. So you have Class Double-L Championship has been moved to a 1:35 p.m. start on Saturday in New Britain, Jackalope Field. On Saturday also, 11:05 a.m. This is the big one. Boyle Stadium in Stamford. So the Class L Championship game between Darien and New Canaan is going to be moved to Stamford at 11:05 a.m. And also in the Class S game will go on as scheduled, and the Class M game will go on as scheduled, which are early starts. The Class S game on Friday and the Class M game at 10 a.m. on Saturday at Central's Jackalope Field.
Okay, well, I think starting the game earlier at 11:05 a.m. is probably the wisest decision. And if not that, of course, I make these decisions, but I think the earlier the better, and that's simply because right now we don't have a complete grasp of how the system is going to behave. So it could get a lot colder, and we can have a lot more precipitation out there, which means all of that would change over to snow and more moderate to heavy earlier on in the day. So you're kind of favoring starting earlier, right?
I think so too, because I think, especially for the fans traveling back and forth, all the games are at one point in the state, and a lot of these teams, Woodland and Sonia have had, a decent hike up there to New Britain. So I think, getting the games in earlier, getting them over with and done before the snow really hits and starts to fall, I think is definitely the wisest decision.
Yeah, and again, I want to go ahead and highlight that even though the system is favoring the afternoon, evening hours, I just think that the earlier, the better. It's safer because it looks like we could see anywhere between 3 and 8 inches of snowfall total, of course, favoring the afternoon hours. But what you don't want is to have people stuck out there on the highways, and then that's going to be an issue in
Right.
general. So my concern, of course, would be having these games in these types of situations where people do have to drive. So do you recommend that if you don't have to see it in person, not that I'm trying to encourage that, what would you recommend as an alternative?
I think the games obviously will be streamed online somewhere. I'm not sure
Okay.
exactly where you can find them, but I think CPTV actually I think is where you can find them. You can also turn on your TV and watch them on CPTV. So if it's tough for you to travel, if you're elderly or something like that where you don't want to go out
Right.
in those types of conditions, you can definitely watch the games on CPTV.
And you'll have
And,
updates on
and
Sports
of
Edge.
course, SportsEdge.com
Yeah,
all day.
all day. So that's
Absolutely.
yeah. So that's something to consider because again, it's just the commute that's a big issue and a big concern right now.
Right.
And once you're kind of parked in that parking lot, and that snow starts to accumulate, that's another issue getting out.
Right, right.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let Kels get back to work. This was a quick discussion on the changes in the game schedule for Saturday for all of these games, but Kels is going to give you a more detailed Sports Edge forecast for these games. He's going to talk about who he favors in these types of conditions. Not that he favors everybody, of course. You're objective.
I have to be objective.
You have to be objective, but really quickly, what do you think?
I
I
think
gotta know.
Well, I think it's different for each game. I think when you look at the Class L championship game, I think that favors Southington because I think they're just a tough team defensively, and I think they'll do well in the snow and tough conditions. Class L, I think it favors New Canaan, to be honest with you. Darien has a good passing game. New Canaan has a good passing game too, but I think their defense, it favors them in those type of conditions. Class S championship game, like I said, I think Ansonia, it favors them completely. And then in Class M, St. Joseph's has an unbelievable offense. We said last week
Yeah.
that we didn't think it was going to stop them, that they weren't going to score 84 points in the conditions that they were going to face. They only scored 62, so,
I guess that's not too bad.
yeah, not too bad. But,
About a
so-
20-point difference there. That's not terrible.
Yeah.
But quickly, these temperatures, I'm going to go ahead and quickly look for our 2-day forecast, Kels, because I also want you to give me some feedback on what you're thinking as far as these numbers. 29 on Saturday. So we're starting off the day in the upper teens to low 20s. Now we're expecting that widespread snow, heavy at times, and it looks like the winds start to pick up for the second half of the day, but you're talking about these games being earlier on in the day, so what about these temperatures?
I think the temperatures will be fine. I think for fans will be the biggest thing, freezing out there in the stands, but I'll be one of them, I think.
Okay,
But,
yeah.
so, yeah, I think that's the biggest concern. I think as far as the game on the field goes, I think these players have played through tough conditions, cold conditions, all
Right.
playoffs long to get to this point. These are the toughest teams, I think, in the state.
And
to make
that's
the
why they're
championship game.
here, correct?
Exactly.
All right, well, good luck. This is why you made it so far, and I am looking forward to seeing what happens. Who's going to be out there? All you guys?
Yes, we'll all be there. I think John will be going live
Okay.
in the games during our newscasts, and you can watch out for that. And, of course, we'll have full highlights, reaction, everything you'd want over on SportsEdge.com afterwards.
Now, will Eric and Noah be here?
I think Eric will probably be out in the field covering
Perfect.
the games, and Noah will be here in
With you.
studio with me, just taking them all in,
All right.
just updating everybody on everything.
So once again, full house here, sportsedge.com for all of your weather updates. Kels has his sports updates coming up in just a couple of seconds there, so log on to sportsedge.com. And here we go, Kels. Wish everybody good luck. Good luck out there and be safe.